Today is Monday, February 7th, 2022. This is the regular meeting of the Asbury Park Planning Board. And Ms. Chairwoman, can you take it away, please?
Absolutely. The following meeting is being conducted by electronic means in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, amended 2020, which explicitly permits a public body to conduct meetings electronically during a state of emergency. Adequate notice of this meeting have been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press. All notices are on file with the board secretary. In addition, a notice regarding this virtual meeting and instructions are published in the Asbury Park Press and City of Asbury Park website. A copy of the notice is on file with the board secretary. The notices and conduct of this meeting are in accordance with the guidelines for virtual meetings issued by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This meeting, as a note, is being recorded via APTV for your viewing pleasure in the future. Can you join me to salute the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag
for which
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will now take roll. Mayor John Moore.
Here.
Thank you. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton.
Here.
Michael Manzella.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Jennifer Sauter.
Here.
Alexis Taylor.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Rick Lambert.
Here.
Barbara Krizak.
Here.
David Scanameo. I'm
Here.
sorry, Daniel Scanameo, excuse
Here.
me.
Here.
Thank you. And Juanita Barnes.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. All right, and I have the agenda up on the screen for this evening.
Okay, the first item that we have up for discussion are the minutes for January 24th, 2022, regular virtual meeting and reorg. Can I get a motion to pass this meeting? I mean the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Unless someone has something else to be concerned about. I heard someone.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Henry. Was that you?
I was going to make a motion to approve, but if someone has comments, let the comments be made before, and then come back to me if you wish.
No comments? Okay, so I have do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Jim Henry and a second by Michael Manzella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And everyone was at the meeting of January 24th, 2022. Any opposed? Thank you. Minutes memorialized.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Barbara, we're just going to submit into the record. Oops, the minutes, it will be Exhibit B1 on the screen. Thank you.
Okay. All right, buckle up. We have 10 resolutions. So let's go with 316 Main Avenue. Do we want to show those modifications, Irina, because I know that some of those came in late? Do we have that?
Sure, I can put that up on the screen, no problem.
While you're doing that, let me swear in Donna.
Thank you.
Donna, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, Clark Caton Hintz, board planner.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and Jack, just to make this easy, other than the resolutions for the applications, can we just take a voice vote for the other resolutions for the appointments?
Well, they were moved by, yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Okay.
Everybody voted in favor of everybody. So we're okay with that.
Okay, great, thank you. And let me put this up on the screen.
Unless there are anyone on the board objects. Okay.
All right, there we go. So the changes that were made,
Page 2, number 4.
page 2, number 4, can everyone see that? Let me get rid of this.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
I clarified the numbers today, looked at the statute, spoke to Donna, spoke to Michael, spoke to Irina, spoke to Barbara. Way I read the statute, I think these numbers are the same as what CCH came up with. 19 are provided, 32 were required, actually 36 were required, but after giving credit for the 4 EV spaces, it was 32. The statute reads in a way that it winds up at 4 max, are the max that we're allowed to have and give credit for. So that's how we wind up with 4 spaces, knocking the requirement down from 36 to 32.
All right, that was the major change that was made here.
Yeah, and then there's another condition number 7 and 8.
Yes.
Yeah, 7 and 8 kind of say the same thing as what we just discussed. It's in an attempt to clarify it. Who knows? We might have made it more complex, but turns out that there are 13 spaces deficient, and that's how you calculate it. I had Irina look up the amount for each space, and it's 15,000. Irina, is that correct?
I hope so. Mike, is that correct?
That's correct for the city ordinance, yes.
Thank you.
And that's it. And I had the date change from when we were going to originally adopt the resolution to tonight. And that's it.
Jack, one quick question on the 316 application, resolution rather. Just for my own information, are the EV spaces going to be completed, or are they just going to be made ready spaces?
I don't know. Whatever he represented in the record, that ultimately, I don't know how that's going to work, the mechanics of it. You're required by statute, and Donna can correct me, you've got a third, and a third of the requirements, or 15% or whatever it is. There's a requirement that they have to be completed every so many years. I don't have that in front of me right now. So I would imagine they're going to be completed. I don't know though, for sure.
What's the rationale for, like, when you give a relief from the number of parking spaces that they pay money to the city? Like, how does that money then provide more parking?
In theory,
Daniel, can we, if you'd like to get that to Mike Manzella
Yeah.
offline, that would be fine, because that really has nothing to do with this
Okay.
resolution. Michael, I'm sure we'll be able to answer that information offline.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, just Jack, just a suggestion where it says the number of EV charging or make ready spaces shall be 6. Should we say the number of spaces to be installed on site shall be 6? Because I think that would just clarify.
doesn't matter to me, whichever you want.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Mike, if we do that, as long as EV is mentioned in there.
Yeah. I think we just need to say on site to just make it very clear that.
Okay, Irina,
Mm-hmm.
can you, this is a Word document, can you make that change?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you just tell me, is it just appearing in number 7?
Yeah, just the number 7.
Okay.
And can I just suggest, this is Donna, just put it right after the citation on site.
Yeah.
Parking spaces in accordance with blah on
On
site.
site. That's easier, actually.
Site,
Yeah.
right here,
Then
before
nothing
end.
else can happen.
Perfect.
Great.
And then just a minor grammar, there's a period after the 15,000.
Oh, sure.
Other than that, I think it's good.
Okay. All right, anybody else? All right, can I get a motion to approve this resolution with these minor changes that were made?
Move to approve with changes.
Got that, Irina?
Yes, I have a motion by Yvonne Clayton. Can I get a second?
I'll
Second.
second. Oh, Jen Souter.
Jen Souter, thank you. And Mayor John, oh, I'm sorry, Mayor John Moore is abstained from this vote. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton
Why, I did? Why?
You voted against it.
voted against the
Oh,
application.
okay. No, I didn't abstain. Okay.
No, it's not an abstention. You voted against both this one and the
Okay.
companion piece. Yeah.
Yes, yep, okay.
Thank you. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton? How do you
Yes.
vote? Thank you. Michael Manzella?
Yes.
Jim Henry?
I abstain because I voted against it also.
No, I had
I
you
did.
voting in favor.
Well, I voted against it, Jack.
Okay, so then we got to correct that in the resolution.
Okay,
So put it, John Moore and Jim Henry voted
all
against it.
right. We'll have to correct it in here as well.
Okay,
So
yeah,
let me
sorry
just
about that,
Do that
folks.
now. I'm just gonna make the change now so that,
Sure, this way it's out of the way.
yes.
And take me out of the sentence above.
Yes,
Yes, you'll be, yeah.
okay. All right. And I'm sorry, so Jim Henry abstains, and Jennifer Souter, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
and Barbara Krizak.
Was
Yes,
was
but I
Rick
don't
in
see Rick.
attendance? Was Rick at that meeting?
I don't remember.
I don't have him in there.
No, you're not. I'm sorry, Rick.
I take back my vote.
Okay. And Barbara was, and she said yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Resolution memorialized.
All right, now we have a set of 7 resolutions appointing all the 2020.
I'm sorry, Barbara. We also have to do the
700.
700 bangs
Oh, okay.
resolution that goes.
Yeah, it's a
along with
companion
it.
resolution.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the Linus Holding resolution, which pairs up with the 316 Main Avenue one?
Move it. Mike Manzella.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Okay,
Thank
can we do
you,
that?
Eric.
We have to make the modification that we made to the other one as well.
Yes, the
Okay.
same members. Is that correct?
Yes.
No, I voted for the,
Actually, that's true. Mr. Henry, I remember, voted for the second
You
one.
voted for this?
Yes,
for 700, but not the 316.
that's correct.
Okay, all right, okay.
All right. So we have abstaining Mayor John Moore and Rick Lambert.
Right, okay.
All right. And Councilwoman Ellen Clayton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes,
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert. I'm sorry, not Rick Lambert, Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Resolution memorialized. All right.
Okay, we have 7 resolutions to work through. We're going to do all these at once, if that's okay. If anyone has any concerns, please let us know. Can I get a motion to approve?
Barbara? I have a question on
Sure.
the resolution naming Irina as the secretary. That resolution is a little different than the other ones, and it doesn't make reference to the fact that her contract is part of that resolution. And I don't know whether Jack did that intentionally or whether it was an over.
Yes, because her contract is a contract with the city itself.
Okay,
She has her own contract with the city.
okay. Thank you very much. Oh, and the other question I had was, does APTV get paid by the board?
They didn't last year. I don't know if they do.
I think it is part of their city contract. We certainly don't pay them out of the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Can I get a motion for approval of the professionals that we have chosen for 2022?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll
Alexis.
second it.
Okay.
All right, I'll take a motion by Jim Henry and a second by Alexis Taylor. And, okay, Mayor John Moore,
Yes.
Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton,
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yep.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
and Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move up our, the application of Springwood Avenue. At this point, because we're going to carry it. They're not ready for us today. Do we have a date, Irina?
Yes, they've asked to be carried to March 21st, 2022.
Okay, so that at that point is still a virtual meeting because they noticed as virtual, correct?
They're going to have to renotice.
They're
Barbara?
going to have to renotice, Barbara,
Yeah.
so we don't know if it's virtual or in person yet.
So what are they gonna notice?
When they find out.
Yeah, we'll let them know as of the end of this week what date we're going to go back to in person.
Okay, so no matter what, it's the 21st.
Correct.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion to carry this application to March 21st with notice?
So move.
Was that Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Was that Michael Manzella? I'm sorry, I
Yes.
can't see the screen. All right, I have a motion by Jim Henry and a second by Michael Manzella. Mayor John Moore,
Yes.
Yvonne Clayton,
Yes.
Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
and Barbara Krizak.
Yes.
Thank you all. Application carried to March 21st, 2022 with further notice.
Okay, here we go. Okay, our next item up for,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Madam Chair.
no, I keep trying to go.
I have as Exhibit B1 a letter from Mr. Kennedy waiving all time constraints and asking for the matter to be carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I promise I will not interrupt.
No, that's okay. I should just ask you if it's okay for me to go.
No.
Okay, all right. The next item up for discussion by the board is a council referral to the redevelopment plan for 1201 Memorial. Just to catch everybody up as to what has occurred and what we're here to discuss is that there were some members that voiced certainly some opinions at our last meeting. And what we agreed to is that we were going to get together and draft a document that we would be presenting to the city council as a response to their request, their referral to us. So what we did is that Eric, Jen, and myself worked on getting a response together, provided that information to Jack so that he could put it in legalese. So at that point, we thought we were pretty much finished. We circulated it within the planning board to see if they were okay because it was everything that we had discussed during the prior meeting. And so what happened then is that Mr. Henry has provided us with some additional information that he would like up for consideration. I did not feel that we, as in Eric, Jen, and I, could make a decision at all based on what he provided. So I felt that we had to bring this up in front of the board so that we could all discuss and make a decision as to what's included in the final version that goes to the council. So today we're here to discuss the the items that were provided to us by Mr. Henry, and a decision will have to be made by the board as to what we include, or has it already been included, or does it get included at all?
Excuse me, Barbara, I apologize. I don't think I received the circulation of the comments by other board members, and so I haven't seen them. So that's why I wrote my own comments.
I believe that, Irina, that it was circulated to everybody? All
She
board
may
members?
she may have, and I may just have missed it, Barbara.
I believe I did as
apologize.
well. Yeah, I believe I did as well. My letter and the comments, yeah.
It was a coincidence,
Yeah,
Jim, because actually this came in right after that was sent out. That's why
Well.
we thought that that's what that was. Okay, so what we have is that we have a number of points that Mr. Henry wanted to bring up. And so we should discuss to find out if the board as a whole feels that they should be included or not in our discussion. Some of these items already are in the memo that was drafted. So we can go through which ones those are as we go through each one. So the first one, Mr. Henry, you were talking about spot zoning, and that's what this was considered, and that that you felt that there was a concern there, and I'd like to find out what your concern is, and to see if the rest of the board members, and with our input from our planner, and Jack actually regarding spot zoning.
Well, should I read my comments to the board?
No, I think that they all have them. They should have them. And if anybody doesn't have them, raise your
Okay.
hand and.
Fine.
So I'm going to just jump right in because you're not going to say anything else other than what your comment already said, right, Jim?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in our last meeting, both Donna and Jack explained to us that it is certainly within the city council's right to create redevelopment areas, even for single sites. And so I don't think as a board, we can call this spot zoning because it is legally allowed within the powers of the city planning, of the city council. However, I think you bring up a really good point, and that is that when Michelle was here in front of us last week, she testified that we might expect to see more of these single site redevelopment areas coming our way. And I think for me, that actually brings up something of a concern because it sort of points to whether or not the underlying zoning for a particular area or whatever is actually performing in the way that we might want in order to incentivize the outcomes that the zoning is intended to create. For example, the 1201 Memorial Drive proposal has some really good benefits of creating affordable housing. And I think, largely the board seems very much in support of that. But there are affordable housing incentives in the underlying zoning, but it doesn't seem that they are sufficient to induce the developer to complete this development or whatever using the underlying zoning. And so if we're going to keep seeing these one-offs, it seems like we might want to do a more comprehensive look at the zoning that underlies the broader area, not focusing on a single site, but looking at what the right zoning is to get a predictable set of outcomes. And so I would say rather than haggling over whether or not this is spot zoning, we might make a recommendation that there is an opportunity here to look more comprehensively at Memorial Drive to better align what we're trying to get what the master plan is telling us are the things we should be going for, and resolving that with the design and contextualization issues that I think we mentioned we were concerned about. So that's my perspective on that particular point.
Can I just comment on that? If I
Please
may?
do.
the changing of the zoning to get away from spot zoning is predicated on the council deciding that the area that we're talking about is in need of redevelopment. And if they don't do that, then it's spot zoning. If they do that, then it's no longer spot zoning. And I agree with you. But you have to remember that the council has to take prior action to call it an area in need of redevelopment before it no longer is spot zoning. That's the only comment I would make on that.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I think the whole city is that, right?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, this has already been designated a long time ago.
Yeah, I
Donna,
second
you're
that with
muted.
Eric.
Donna,
I
you're
second that
muted.
with Eric is that, either the underlying zoning is, correct or it's not. I mean, if you had to go down, you have to think about this, like if there's an application for every other block on Memorial Drive. So, if they're all asking for changes, then maybe, the underlying zoning is incorrect, right? If you got to keep on changing it. And isn't it better to have some sort of, cohesive zoning? Then, that's what troubled me, that there was going to be more, but we're going to have a quilt of these special redevelopment areas. I mean, why do we need that?
I think Eric makes a good point. So do you, Dan. I mean,
Jack, do you have anything to throw into the mix?
Well, it's not spot zoning the way it's been proposed
Mhm.
legally. Once you designate an area in need of redevelopment, rehabilitation, and so on and so forth, you can get into small parcel redevelopment. Secondly, it's a second criteria that I always look at for spot zoning is you usually can find inconsistencies in spot zoning with the master plan. In this case, we had extensive testimony that talked about that this meets many of the goals and objectives of the master plan by both Donna and Michelle. So it's not technically spot zoning. Your comments, you're allowed to make your comments and recommendations that you don't want to see the patchwork or quiltish type of redevelopment along the area. And you have every right under the law to recommend that the council revisit the zoning for the entire district to make it more cohesive, to put it in Dan's terms.
Well, what we could do, can I propose that since what we're talking about, right, for this particular item right now, is that what we're talking about is making recommendation to the council on whether this, the plan is, this redevelopment plan should move forward or not. I hear what you guys are saying, and it kind of sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, because you're the legal one, is that we can make a recommendation to the planning office. If you like to make it to the council, that's fine, or you can make it to the planning office, whichever, that we put something separate, not contained in this, because this really has nothing to do with this. You're talking about the future of Memorial Drive, and to request for them to take a look again so that we don't get many more of these designations that we will have to go through, the council has to go through, we have to go through. If we can make a recommendation that way, as opposed to as part of this reaction.
You certainly can. And I would address it to both the mayor and council as well as the planning department. Sure.
I would like to be able to do that, because I think that will get the kind of visibility that it needs, because this is something very specific. We're talking about something very specific to 1201. We're not talking about, well, what's the greater good? What's our future? So that's what I'm going to suggest on this one. Is that okay?
Yeah. I think that sounds great. I think we should absolutely try and be proactive about, we should plan. Imagine that as a board.
I think that there's a number of things that we have learned through this process that towards the future that we're going to make it better. And that's our goal, is to always make these processes more cohesive and better for the community, better for all of us. So that's what I'm going to suggest with this one, if that's okay. Can we go
Donna
to
has her hand up.
who?
Donna.
Hi. So I understand the concern. And I know there's kind of tension between who's leading, the planning board or the governing body as to the future of development. So in your master plan, the new master plan, there are a number of recommendations that address the concerns that you guys have specifically. I'm looking at, in the vision recommendations, page 57. There's a recommendation for studying corridors, Asbury Avenue, Memorial Drive, gateways, so that a better approach can be made. It's not just this standard zoning that we have in the B or the LI. We got to make these corridors function. So there's urban design study, there's study of right-of-ways, because again, some of the right-of-ways are over-designed, some of them are lesser. We don't have full control over our right-of-ways, some are under the jurisdiction of the county. And so, we get that kind of, again, you're getting that patchwork quilt of what's the impact when development happens. So, some of this is going to be handled with the underlying zoning, because people are going to come in and do smaller lots, smaller development. Some of them may approach and ask for redevelopment plans because they're trying to do assembly, they need to do a tax abatement. There may be, specific things about the lots they have or are looking at in order to, get the puzzle pieces to fit, to get a development to work. Zoning is kind of a broad brush. The amendments we did was a broad brush approach based on what the overall master plan recommendations are. We had some specific master plan recommendations, then we have broader. So that's why you're going to get these occasional independent redevelopment plan requests in different zones. We didn't microscopically look at every lot in every block in every zone and see what the complications are for their future development. So when a developer comes in and says, I'm looking at this corner over here, what can I do? What will you let me do? That's the doorway. We have the redevelopment designation. We've kind of bolstered the B zone a little bit. We've kind of, reshaped the LI a little bit. We want these new uses. We want mixed use. We want to, we have an obligation for affordable housing. So, we got to try and work together to understand that, the underlying zoning is a starting point. We may need to do some type of overlay on specific sites in the form of whether it's an overlay or a redevelopment plan to achieve the actual development that we want to see. But we do have other studies that the master plan recommended to be done. Remember, Eric, the ADUs, right? And
Absolutely. I think that's a really excellent point, because
that's going to help.
If we're talking about 1201 Memorial,
right,
there's a fundamental disconnect between allowing 70 dwelling units per acre on one site, and the very next site you're telling people they can't add an accessory dwelling unit to go from 1 to 2. And so there's just no transition there. And so I think that fundamentally Memorial Drive really needs to start to figure out how it both accepts some of the development and is a tool for us to meet our affordable housing goals, but then also helps provide the transition from that higher, I'm going to call it medium density. I think it's not high density, it's medium density, to a lower density single family neighborhood.
Right. Well, and to that point specifically, the B is a Main Street type of commercial development, and Memorial Drive isn't that flavor.
No,
especially
not yet.
I mean, on the backside's a little bit where you have blending into the residential neighborhood, but it's distinctly different than the east side. So we should
absolutely
probably craft something that makes it unique to the west side.
I think that I think that there's a sense of agreement that we do recommend to the council and the governing bodies that we take a look at this, because the planning board has recommended some studies, and that we move these forward sooner than later, because the development is coming. And that's what I propose that we move that forward before we go to number 2. All right. Any nays? Any other? Okay. All right, for number 2, regarding setbacks. Setbacks have been dealt with already in our memo to the council. So I request that we don't have to rehash setbacks again. Unless somebody else has something else to say about the setbacks.
Barbara, remember, I haven't got the benefit of your memo. So
Well,
what's the
we do-
setback going to be?
I'm sorry, Jim, but we did send it to you. So what we can do is we can send it again.
No, just tell me what your setbacks are.
It's
that's
already
all.
in there. Okay.
I believe that we recommended that it align with the prevailing setback on 4th and 5th, and that it is allowed to be built to the property line on Memorial Drive.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. The proposed building setbacks along 4th and 5th should align with the current setbacks of the properties located on the west to maintain the current easterly and westerly view corridors. The setbacks proposed are inconsistent with area/neighborhood. So that has already been
Yeah.
included in our memo.
Yeah, can I just ask something? So when we
Sure.
say built to the property line, I want to make sure, that the right of way is, it's not to the sidewalk, it's to the property line, which is behind the city's right of way, right? I mean, it's,
You're muted, Donna. No, okay. Yes. Number 3. Do we have something about the out of scale, Donna, here?
Well, just that it's,
We
you know,
have,
that's Jim's perception that the proposed height would be out of scale. I guess number 4 is really the substantive part of his remark, which is to presuming he's looking for a cap of 4 stories, not permitting the additional 5th story.
I believe there was discussion about the height at the first meeting, and there was no concern the concern was to step it down, having its maximum height at the easterly side of the property and working its way down to the westerly where it blends in with the neighborhood to the west.
right, just so that you're clear, Jim, is that we had proposed in the memo to the city council, we have that the proposed building height should be stepped down starting at Memorial Drive and end at the westerly property line where the adjacent neighborhood begins. The board recommends that the height of the proposed building within 100 feet of Memorial Drive should be 5 stories and therefore drop down to 3 stories at the westerly property line. This will ensure an orderly transition in the neighborhood to the west of the proposed project. So that's what we propose to send to the council.
well, they'll actually have parking, right? They'll actually have
It's-
parking in the rear, right?
We don't know. We have
Okay.
not seen, just so that we're clear, we have not seen any site plans of anything having to do with this property. This is only what the city council has sent to us via the planning officer. So we don't know what this is going to look like.
Just a point of potential typo in the resolution that the council referred to the planning board on page 9. I'm not sure if it's a typo. It says 4 stories is the maximum, but is that correct or is it 5 stories?
We are asking for 5.
Correct, but I just wanted to make sure that because in the summary that we received, it says 4 stories in one place and then 5 stories in another. Or actually, it never refers to 5 stories.
Which sum are we talking about?
Currently, the building is 4-story.
I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on anybody.
It's okay.
I mean, when we say step down to 3 stories going west, so I mean, again, I don't know what yard requirement is there. I mean, do we want to say that or anything about a buffer between the adjoining properties?
The resolution includes a 25-foot rear and side yard
Oh,
setback.
okay, fine, great.
So this is Donna. Eric, you had suggested that a 4-story cube was completely out of character, inappropriate, it made more sense for there to be more height along the memorial frontage and have it step down. And Michelle did not have in her draft where, the form of the box would be stepping down, even though she was suggesting that was the intent. So
Correct.
we've moved that into the world by, in this draft that, yeah, 5 stories is okay along Memorial Drive. The B permits 4 stories, and they were going to go with a full 4-story cube. We don't want that. So we're going to have
Right.
5 along Memorial, and we're going to step down to 3 at the residential,
Right. I think we suggested past 100 feet from Memorial Drive. So like the first 100 feet into the block, you would get the full height, and then you step down.
Right.
Okay, anything else on those, on that, the site design, those 3 and 4?
Oh, sorry.
Let's go to 5, where we have the density. I think that I don't know, do we have anything on feeling that, I mean, is the density a feeling? Is it a fact? Is it a?
Well, Barbara, my numbers are based on the fact that they said there was going to be 124 units. And assuming on the, just to the west of this site, that each of those single-family residential houses are on a 5,000 square foot lot. That's 9 times more dense than the 77 units per acre that was proposed for this particular site. That's where the numbers came from.
Okay, so you're comparing what it used to be to what they're suggesting it to be, and you're saying that the density is 9 times higher.
I'm saying what the proposal is 9 times higher
Right.
than the properties immediately to the west.
Okay, all right. Go
If
ahead.
I may make a point here, Jim, so many of the apparent single-family homes are legal multifamily houses. And so I think this was my point earlier, is that there is a sort of incongruity between this being called an R1 neighborhood and whether or not it actually is. And the number of nonconformities created by that is one of those subjects that I think we should also take up when we look kind of at this area more comprehensively, would be the right zoning designation for the blocks adjacent to Memorial Drive.
It's a good point, Eric.
And this is Donna. Just also, although the residences are in that R1 district, the density for the B district on Memorial is currently 40 dwelling units to the acre.
Yep.
So for this site, they would be by right permitted like 62 units. So yeah, it's 120 units on an acre and a half is much higher than 107, higher than the 77 DUs, or the 40 DUs that the B currently permits.
Right.
And there's only a 5 dwelling unit per acre credit for meeting a quirky thing about the affordable housing. If there's a larger share of low mod, you get that 5 DU bonus. But it's only like roughly slightly less than 2 times the existing density, the current permitted by right density for the zone. So I understand what you're saying compared to Eric's house. That neighborhood, yeah, it's wildly different because it's a different zone. It has a different requirement. And to Eric's point earlier, we're trying to understand a better transition from Main Street Memorial into the residential neighborhood. So, we're gonna, right now, the governing body is telling us, based on what the developer feels they can do for the site, again, where this is not imaginary, this is somebody has an idea that they've penciled out pretty closely to what they can build, they need 120 units in order to, satisfy the affordable housing component.
Let's also be clear that this, whatever is going to be built on this lot and whatever the council decides, the board has seen nothing. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what it is.
Right, we only have this outline of what the developer suggests they need in order to make development work.
That's right. It is not within our purview to make decisions about things we haven't seen and are not before the board.
Right.
One of the suggestions I do have is that when it does become before the board, if you have concerns having to do with what is proposed, then the planning board has the purview to say whatever or make whatever suggestions they have at that point.
However, I think it's important to note that, let's just say the city council does approve the resolution as it stands with the setbacks and the height that has already been decided. If the developer comes to the planning board for site plan approval, we don't have the right to deny the application if they're adhering to the regulations of the redevelopment area plan. We have to have a rational reason to ask them to do a bigger setback or a different height. But if those things are coded into the resolution and approved by the city council, the planning board essentially has to live with them. So we don't get a second whack at the apple.
You have to apply the law as written.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in this particular item, I'm not saying that we're asking for something different.
No, I don't think in that particular item.
This is a calculation.
But I just want to be, pardon me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is simply a calculation of what it was to what it is. It's not like we're asking for it to be different. We are asking for different setbacks. We are asking for different heights.
Right. No, I was responding simply to your statement that the planning board will have an opportunity to do site plan approval for this project or any redevelopment area project. However, site plan approval doesn't mean we get to change whatever we want. Mm-hmm. We still have to live with the outlines of the envelope that the city council has set for the site. So the opportunity to influence the outcome is in the process we're in the midst of, not later, not necessarily later.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
So that with this, like I said, this is a calculation. I don't see that we're asking for the calculation to be any different. It's a fact that we're just stating that this is what it is.
120 units will be allowed. Correct.
And that's what it is.
Did we say anything about ground floor, that it could all be residential?
If on Mr. Henry's request, that's number 6 and 7. That was provided to everyone. Having to do with the businesses. What do we have here, Jim? What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything. What I'm pointing out is that when Michelle made her presentation, she said that the ground floor was going to be parking and that there was going to be no commercial use on the ground floor. And I'm saying the B zone, which this property originally was in, it calls for commercial use on the ground floor. And therefore, you're diminishing the business zone by the size of this particular area that you're talking about. We're talking about between 4th and 5th Avenues and the first 200 or 300 feet, 200 feet from a Memorial West. You're excluding that from the business zone. Our business zone isn't very big, and I'm just pointing that out to you, that this is something that we ought to consider. And I think it goes back to the first issue as to whether or not our zones should be looked at again at a future date.
Right, but so are you suggesting, Mr. Henry, are you suggesting that we request that there is some retail on this site?
Well, I throw that out for discussion. is that something we want?
Well, that's what,
That-
Yeah, I think that was a problem, that was a problem I know from the development of Wesley Grove. That there was no retail and it disconnected the beachfront from downtown, and so, I mean, so you have to decide, is Memorial Drive a corridor that you want to have, some commercial on, right? That it's a commercial corridor, at least on the ground floor, like New York City does. And they'll say, okay, these are retail corridors and you must have so much percentage of the ground floor being devoted to these uses, non-residential uses. So it's a question, do we want that or not? Or is it okay just to have a dead spot there? If that's,
Well,
I think one of the things that we did when we downzoned that from light industrial was kind of those same issues. You had, the industrial properties that had no commercial use, that took up the entire block face, and there was no kind of interaction with the community. No, it didn't enliven the streetscape in any kind of way. And that was kind of what we were trying to get away from when we were talking about the rezoning of that whole corridor. So I understand this, they're asking for some special consideration, but I think I agree with Jim that, and I said that at the last meeting when we first discussed this, that's a huge block face to not have anything other than an entry to a residential building. I just think that's a really poor development of that block face, just to have it, parking.
I agree. I think it's a missed opportunity, in particular for 1201 Memorial Drive. The area that sort of rings the old train station, starting at the Dunkin' Donuts and moving all the way around through the shops at Sunset Point and up to the pharmacy past Georgie's, that should really be something that feeds life kind of onto that part of our open space corridor. And then on the 4th Avenue side, 4th Avenue is a major through street. And so I think just not taking advantage of creating some sort of active gateway at the corners of this site in particular, I think is, missed opportunity. And so
it reinforces that whole separation, blank corridor. It doesn't relate to Main Street. It doesn't serve any kind of linkage to the neighborhood. I mean, it really is an opportunity to establish a really strong connection. And not saying the entire block face has to be some commercial, but there should be some commercial use on that ground floor just to kind of enliven that streetscape, because right now there's nothing that goes along there. You have the hall plumbing business, which is not really any kind of storefront. There's no commercial. Do you have the big parking lot of the supermarket? The stores like the only business, and then the little strip mall are like the only businesses that generate any kind of foot traffic. And to put up a development that's going to take that entire city block and not generate any kind of foot traffic is just, I think it's a really missed opportunity.
okay,
And
so,
I mean, you could make it a small percentage of the Memorial Drive frontage that has to be
Right.
devoted to, particular uses.
Donna,
so does anyone else here have any feelings about adding that as our 4th item that we would like to present to the council?
So this is Donna. So what Michelle had presented in the original draft of the plan was that commercial ground floor uses are permitted. She did suggest that the developer wasn't planning on incorporating any commercial use, but it's not restricted from, it's not prevented from, it is permitted. And honestly,
We wanted required, not just permitted.
but at the same time, so we're talking about adding a huge chunk of population to the block that's going to filter to the north, south, and east, right? We're going to go to these people are going to go to Sunset Point. They're going to go to the grocery store, and then they're going to be funneled out east to Main Street to support those commercial uses. I think requiring additional commercial use along this frontage just helps leak business away from those commercial uses. I don't, in a sense, Memorial Drive gets a very nasty highway strip feel to it because there's so many. I mean, granted, they're not good pedestrian oriented uses. They're crappy auto sales and storage and, the warehouse stuff and, industrial type uses. They don't feel pedestrian friendly. But I don't think you need to saturate the whole corridor. I think more people going to Sunset Point and going to supermarket helps strengthen those, and then getting them out onto Main Street.
Okay, I have a counterpoint to that. So the development that's going in at Main and Bangs, that the big white building that's next to the Santander Bank, that's going to be.
We just did the resolution for.
That's going to be torn down and adjacent. Okay, so on the ground floor of that building, there are 8 small businesses, 7 of which are occupied. When that building goes in, it's getting rid of all of those. There's going to be one space on Main Street that's just going to be. They're going to leave it open so it can be configured to allow some businesses. But that's maybe 3 businesses at the most. So that development. I mean, you talk about residential gentrification. Well, there's also commercial gentrification, and that's really disturbing that those businesses that are thriving businesses are going to be displaced because of this development. So this creates maybe another opportunity for them to move to another location.
There's existing vacant space in 700 Bangs. So part of that is, new development is pricing out what little, mom and pop shops can afford. Part of it is the size of the space, part of it is the cost of the space. And we have that tension right now, but.
And I'm sure the rental prices in the downtown area are probably a lot pricier than something that would be on Memorial Drive as well.
But we have like 5 master plan goals that tell us not to leak commercial, into residential areas. We want to keep them. That's why we cut back the NC zone and the B zones and focus.
That's not a residential area. That's a residential area.
I think what's being advocated for is a balanced approach, though, where these are the corners in particular, I think, are missed opportunities here, where when you look at the commercial that exists just in the immediate area of 1201, it is highly subscribed. There's very few vacant businesses. If you take out the H. Walter store, everything else is full. And I think that there is a clear retail market, but no new retail has been created at all that I can think of. It's all been renovation of existing retail. And I think some small format, even if it's just 30 by 30, a 900 square foot, whatever of, a cafe or a clothing shop or a market, whatever it is. I don't know what the kind of businesses are. I think helping the corners bridge that gap in this location, I think would be a balanced approach. Not the whole thing, but some small component should be encouraged. And there are master plan goals that say about using corner lots for new retail.
And that whole building development does nothing to enliven that streetscape. I mean, it's just going to be a huge blank wall.
It will be well landscaped, maybe.
Exactly. It's how you want.
And maybe a couple of murals. I mean, come on.
It's how you want the street to look. So I don't know. I was born and raised in Park Slope. So I don't know if you're 4th Avenue in Brooklyn and Park Slope is a wider, twice the size of Memorial Drive. With a the subway runs under it. There's a mall, right?
It's the same size as Memorial Drive.
Okay,
180 feet wide.
And it was historically only industrial, right? It was industrial zone from 1961, and it was changed in the 2000s to allow residential and height. And I think it looks terrible now because the first buildings that went up, because there was no requirement to put, on 4th Avenue on the ground floor, were blank walls, a lot of them being the ventilation louvers and stuff like that. And the city went back, redid the zoning a few years back again, is that you have to put some, lively uses there. And again, it has to be, like you said, in balance. I remember when they were doing, the waterfront redevelopment, they wanted too much retail. It had to be transparent and stuff like that.
Can I just cut to the chase if you don't mind? Because the bottom line that we're looking for here is, what do we recommend? Okay?
Well, I mean, I just think we're giving supportive arguments as
Bottom
to what we're recommending. I mean, CCH is the one that recommended doing a B zone there. So clearly the desire was to create some kind of, business uses along that corridor. So,
Right, that's
I mean, I think not requiring something is just
Underlying zoning
contrary.
requires business on the ground floor.
Yeah, so I think by not expecting some percentage of it, we're ignoring why it was downzoned to a B to begin with. I mean, that was the intent.
You
I would
have
say
no,
cross
you
zone.
have no argument with me. You have no argument with me.
Juanita
I'm
is
just,
here.
Juanita
I'm
has
just
her hand
trying to,
up.
trying to get into
Yeah.
the bottom line here. So
Obviously, I
Juanita,
don't know all the ins and outs of what half the stuff you're talking about is.
and some of
but
that, sometimes
I-
that's better, Juanita.
So, but as somebody who's always lived basically in that neighborhood, and currently I live like on Deal Lake Drive, and I worked at the high school for 20 years. And I, was so happy to see the Sunset Point area developed for small commercial businesses. And, it's just much more pleasant walking down that street and being there. And then I know that the methadone clinic was in that building prior to it being torn down. And it was, kind of grimy over there, although it provided a service we definitely needed. I do like the idea of at least having the corners be a commercial possibility, because just having one residential building there, I just don't, it's sounding a little projecty to me. But I do like, the affordable housing, but I think that, like a bodega, I don't care, but it's something that is lively on those two corners. And Fourth is a major way in and out of the city. So I do like the idea of it. So that's my vote on it.
All right, so does anybody else? Let me just see if I can wrap this up to the approval of the rest of the board. And if not, you feel free to yell at me. Okay, what I'm hearing is that we would like to, even though in the redevelopment, the plan already states that it's allowed, that retail is allowed. I'm hearing from you that you are asking for it to be required or some other very strong word.
And it can be as a
Well-
percentage of the ground floor.
I think a
Right.
percentage of the ground floor. Yeah.
So we need some percentage. Like,
So-
do we say 30 by 30 on either side?
How big is the site? How big is the site? What is it?
300 by 300 feet long along Memorial Drive.
So if you ask for 10%, you're asking for 30 foot of frontage. If you're asking for 15%, you're asking for 45. So the nice
Well-
way to put it is by percentage of frontage.
Yeah, I
That's
think
one way
that's
to-
I think that's how it should be
Require what,
worded.
10% of frontage,
20%
More
of
than that.
frontage.
20% of frontage?
20%. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I would recommend, could we consider maybe a minimum amount of square footage? Because,
Well, I think you want to put the frontage on Memorial, so.
Well, it's
So-
frontage on the corners.
So you don't want like,
Memorial
so for
Drive and
instance,
Memorial
Mike,
Drive.
if you're saying square footage, they could put 10 foot of frontage on Memorial and make it very deep going back. So
Sure.
the whole idea is you really want to say how much foot of frontage or percentage on Memorial Drive.
okay, I was just thinking that they can make a very shallow, they can take up 20% of the frontage and make a very shallow space, and that's kind of useless, right?
But
That's my only thought.
They'd be wasting their space.
they would be
Yeah,
wasting
that
their
would
space.
be, wouldn't be profitable.
Yeah,
Right,
it'd be
so-
detrimental to
And
the
I
whole
think
idea.
percentage gets you to scale. If you're
So-
saying 20%, 30%, 30 feet and 30 feet gives you some sense of scale.
Right, so we're saying to require 20% of the frontage on the corners of Memorial and Fourth and Memorial and Fifth.
Well, I
A
don't-
minimum of 20% it's a minimum
Right.
of 20% of the frontage on
yeah,
Memorial.
they can locate it. Give them some freedom. I mean, it doesn't have to be the corners, but gives them some freedom to maybe
Okay, so
do
we
it
say,
another way.
so we
And
say
you could say a
require,
minimum depth too. You could say minimum depth.
well, so we're saying
That's-
require minimum of 20% of frontage on Memorial.
Yeah.
For retail / commercial.
Yeah, that would be the same as, if I'm correct, is that 900 square feet? I'm sorry, how many square feet is that if it's 300 by 30 feet deep? 20%, 60 feet. Yeah, so that would be 2 30 by 30 foot stalls would be 1,800 square feet total. Did I just do my
Okay.
math right there?
And when we say commercial, that means that permits professional offices, or is that under that use group?
That's a good question.
So yeah, the permitted principal uses in the plan are retail, restaurant, service, and office.
Can we disallow banks?
Yeah.
But think about this. You're introducing 120 families into this particular area. What logically would be the retail use of that building? It would be kind of a convenience store, in my way of thinking. I mean, that would be a logical thing to.
I don't know. We have a fantastic grocery store a block and a half away. So, but you're right. There are, and there's a 7-Eleven. Who knows what it's going to be? But I think the opportunity to have an active ground floor use is better than not.
Plus, support businesses for the residents, things that like maybe a dry
cleaner.
Right, or a barber, those kinds of things that support the residents that live there.
Right, but we remember that we can't be that specific.
No, I know. I'm just saying that
Okay,
I think
well-
these are supportive uses that would lend itself to, going in that building.
Shops at Sunset Point has not had any trouble leasing their spaces, and I think that there's a market within the local area for more retail.
All right. To rally back.
Yes.
Retail and commercial, retail or commercial require a minimum of 20% of frontage on Memorial. Yes?
Yeah.
No? Anything else that I should add to that statement?
Yeah.
Because that's the statement.
Can we limit banks? I like Eric's.
No.
Oh, hang on. Remember,
No, you start getting into
That's too specific.
industries,
let's be
You're going
clear as to
beyond your
what,
powers.
Okay.
yeah.
And that can be the subject of a study, right? We're still
Yeah.
distinguishing between
Yeah.
what we're requiring here in a
Right.
study.
Let's be clear as to what we're doing here, okay? We are asking, suggesting
Yep.
to the council what we would like to change. I'm just trying to be very targeted as to what our most important items are. And so far, it's been the setbacks, it's been the height. Now we're adding retail and commercial and green and sustainable initiatives. Those are the 4 things we're asking them to change, to consider. Remember, it's just a consideration. We're hoping they'll do it. We don't know if they'll do it or not. They could just tear this up and say goodbye. Or they could listen to us and do some of these things, and we're hoping they'll do every one. So let's be clear as to what we're doing. And if we make it too restrictive,
Turn the whole thing off.
they'll turn the whole thing off. We can't do that.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
sorry to
agree.
say-
I agree.
I'm sorry to say, and I know that we're very passionate about what we want and what we love for this city. I'm just trying to focus so the city council has something hard in their hands that they can really be passionate about, as opposed to
Feel like
feeling
they're being constrained.
too constrained. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
So are we okay? So what, Yvonne, give us your wisdom.
I was just going to say, and as a member of the city council, we're listening.
I know you're listening.
We're not going to go, oh, nah, we already made a decision. Never mind. Plus, I'm here. I'm listening. I know what's behind much of what's being proposed. So even though I'm going to abstain from this, it's because I don't think it's right for me to vote on it. It's because then I'm going to have to be in the council listening to it, and I can be an advocate. So, all right. And your city council is just not going to say, nah.
I was just being facetious. Okay, are we, all right. Just rallying back for the whole thing here. So are we okay with those 4 items that we discussed, that and the addition of requesting the planning, requesting the council and the city administration towards the future of looking at the study to see if we should relook at the underlying zoning of Memorial, so that we don't have a lot of these recurrences of this. So that's a request that I would write to the council and to the planning office.
That's a
So
separate document, correct?
That's a separate document.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, that's all.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a separate document.
Okay, sure.
Just like there are other things that we came up with as part of this process that we had suggested and they have said, yes, we will do this going forward. So it's a learning that we have. Is
Okay.
this okay? So how do we wrap this up, Jack?
Well,
Well, I
I can-
think there was one more thing that we had discussed, Barbara, and that was about stormwater.
That, I believe that Michelle, Donna?
Yeah, the draft of the plan says whatever's not covered specifically in the plan is subject to whatever's in the land development regulations, which is where the stormwater regs are.
Okay.
This would be a major development, so it would be triggering the stormwater requirements. And the question about timing is moot. It's not a pending application, so the time of application rule doesn't apply to it.
So stormwater will be covered.
Whatever the stormwater regs are at the time an actual application
Okay,
comes in.
so it's not, okay, it's not an open door. It's okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, so we take the letter that I drafted, add a fourth clause, clean up the sustainable energy. I'll talk to Jennifer Souter about making sure that makes sense with what she put in on her recommendations. So I referenced the right things. Have a vote on that, and then included in that vote is a second letter to come from the planning board, emanate from the planning board to the administration as well as the planning department to review the entire corridor.
Suggest we have a study.
Yeah, review, and there's also, you can make reference to that master plan language that Donna mentioned that is already in the master plan for the corridors, and that'll strengthen your position.
Yeah, that'll be just a request that we'll give to the
So there you go.
council and the planner.
So you get that in the form of a motion, a second, and a vote, and we're off to the races.
Does anyone have anything to say, the comments before we go to vote?
Could you just read the recommendation specifically on the commercial? What is it?
Well, I'm going to give you what I have at this point. I haven't, developed it, but simply state in point number 4 that the board, nice flowery language, but the board recommends the council consider requiring a minimum of the frontage of the building along 20% of the frontage of the building along Memorial Drive be retail and/or commercial usage.
Ground floor frontage. But
Yeah, ground floor. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Donna's trying to talk.
Yeah, I think you would just say any of the permitted ground floor commercial uses.
Yeah, I think
That's fine.
Yeah.
When I send this out, you'll give me your comments. I'm just telling you off the top of my head, but basically we'll refine it.
Right, but the issue, Jack, is that I believe that it has to go to the council for this Wednesday. Is that true?
Yeah, so I'm planning on doing this tomorrow.
All right, so it's happening tomorrow, so be on the lookout, Donna and board members, for this, so that if anything has to change, this has to be out tomorrow by the end of the day to the council.
Yes.
Okay,
And we'll also be sending the short version, right? And then our supplemental document.
As an
So I'll go into
exhibit.
that supplemental document and add the stuff
Yeah,
about.
you take care of that. Get that to me early in the morning. I'll do my letter. I'll take them both, ship them to everybody, give me a quick comment back, and then I'll put it on letterhead and zoom it out the door.
And so what I'll be adding to the supplemental document is the 20% retail requirement.
yes,
I'm putting that in as point 4 in the cover letter as well.
yes, and
Great, yes.
Eric should add it into his
Right.
larger document so that everything is included in his document and we have the bullet items on the memo.
Jennifer Souter.
Yeah,
Are you available tomorrow morning for a discussion on on what you need me to put in to make it correct?
I mean, I can be, but I also can it's just that one link that I could just send you.
Send it to me. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
pretty simple.
Cool.
The language is fine as is, it's just the reference.
Okay, thanks.
And I see that John has his hand up. Is that on purpose?
Yes, I'm not talking about this whatsoever because I recused myself. But look, last week Jack called and wanted another week from the council. If you need a couple more days, I don't want you to rush this and say the council rushed you. So if you got it to us tomorrow, we're taking no action on this Wednesday. So I have no problem. Yvonne, I don't think we're gonna have a problem. I don't think the council. I don't want to feel like you guys are under the gun to get this out, then you forgot something. So if you want to extend it another week, your call.
I'm available to conclude this tomorrow and get it done and over with.
I think we should just get it done.
Yeah, let's whip it into shape. I'm going away for 3 days starting Wednesday morning, but I'm taking my computer with me. So if I have to, I have to.
Leave it.
No problem. Just wanted to make the offer if you needed more time.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Okay, let's get a motion and a vote.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the presentation or the response to the city council as we discussed today?
I'll move it, Rick.
I'll second.
Yeah, I have a motion by Rick Lambert and a second by Eric Gallopo. Mayor John, oh, I'm sorry. Mayor John Moore, are you still recused from this discussion?
Correct. I can't vote.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Yvonne Clayton, how do you vote?
She's recused.
I don't think I can vote.
Oh,
so I-
you are also going
Yes.
to recuse yourself. Thank you. All right, moving down the list, Michael Manzella,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes,
Jennifer Souter,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Eric Gallopo,
Yes.
Rick Lambert,
Yes.
and Barbara Krizak.
And
Yes.
both alternates can vote. 2 members.
True.
has
Okay,
recused
let's
themselves.
take their votes.
Yeah, let's get them in.
All right, Mr. Scannamayo
Yes.
and Juanita Barnes.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you
Great.
all.
Right,
Recommendation approved.
Can I also just take one moment to thank all of you for the passion that you have for this request, and it just shows how much this board cares about this city. Thank you. So now, do we adjourn?
Barbara, we have to thank you, of course, for your steadfast leadership as well. And I also want to commend everybody on the board for the time they put in, and also our city councilors. We have our disagreements, but we can disagree respectfully, I think. And I think that that's an important part of this discourse, and making sure that we're listening to the people around us.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
And before we do, I'm just going to put up on the screen the
You know, I
next.
should just ask you, Arena, is there anything else?
I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Thank you. I'm just putting up on the screen the next meeting of February 28th, 2022 will also be virtual. And I just wanted to say to all the public members that are that have joined this meeting, there is no public discussion or comment period. And we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. All right, Barbara, please continue.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Henry, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And Rick Lambert, all in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Meeting adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Right.